The tense that we'll be going over in this video is the future tense. It is absolutely no matter what materials, what course you're taking, what instructor you speak to, it's absolutely the easiest grammar tense to learn in the whole Spanish language for a couple of reasons. But, so this is the future tense. The first thing to remember about the future tense is that it's often also called the formal future. One thing that we have to remember is some people say, oh, the future tense. So every time I'm speaking in the future, I'm going to use the future tense. No. In prior Spanish classes, you have already learned how to speak in the future by using ir plus a plus infinitive. So if you remember, if you want to say something like, I am going to dance, she is going to sing, then it would be something like, yo voy a bailar, meaning to dance. I am going to dance, yo voy a bailar, but she is going to sing, ella va a cantar. So that is something that we call ir plus a plus infinitive, or the informal future, and that is not what we're talking about right now. So what this is right now is called the future tense, also known as the formal future tense, because first thing that I would write down is that it's not the ir plus a plus infinitive stuff that I just mentioned, and the second thing that I would write down is that it is will. So this is I will dance, she will sing, we will study, they will learn. So it is always will. Every single time in English you want to say will and then a verb, it's going to be the future tense, aka the formal future, this stuff in Spanish. So jot that down. This is I will blah blah blah. You all will la la la, or whatever it is. So that's the first thing, is what is the formal future tense is will. One of the reasons for which we say, remember I said there are two reasons why we say this is the easiest grammar tense to learn in the whole Spanish language, and one of the reasons why we say this is the easiest is because we're not used to doing this, so sometimes it can come back to bite us if we forget to do this, but we're not used to this. We keep the infinitive form of the verb. So we all remember what the infinitive form of the verb is. Obviously, that's before you conjugate it. So whenever you're learning verbs the very first time, and you learn that comer means to eat, and hablar means to talk, and estudiar means to study, or escribir means to write, that would be the infinitive form of the verb. It's before you chop off the AR, ER, or IR, right? So we're not used to doing this, so remember to do so. In the future tense, we keep the infinitive form of the verb, and then it doesn't matter whether it's an AR verb, ER verb, or an IR verb, we attach the same endings to the end of the infinitive form of the verb. So the number one reason why this is easy is because we keep the infinitive form of the verb and then just tack endings on to that. And the second reason why undeniably people would say this is the easiest tense to learn is because generally whenever we're learning the present tense, there are AR verb endings and ER verb endings and IR verb endings. Whenever we're learning, I don't know, the preterite, there's a set of conjugations or endings for AR verbs, and then if you're dealing with ER or IR verbs, that's a different box that you have to remember of conjugations. That's not the case with the future tense. We just have one box of conjugations to memorize. So please remember, we keep the infinitive form of the verb, and then we attach, whether it's an AR verb, ER verb, or IR verb, it doesn't matter. We attach this appropriate set of endings depending on who our subject is. So obviously, if yo is the subject, I'm going to keep the infinitive form of the verb, whatever it might be, and then attach this E with an accent, A. If tú is the subject, I'm going to keep the infinitive form of the verb and then attach this AS with the accent over the A, as, to the infinitive form of the verb. Down here, if it is él, ella, usted, María, José, el perro, la profesora, el estudiante, any third person singular subject, we would attach this to the infinitive form of the verb. It's the letter A with an accent mark over it, so pronounced a. If we, nosotros, or nosotras, are the subject, we're going to take the infinitive form of the verb and attach this, E-M-O-S, pronounced hemos. It is the only one of these conjugations that does not have an accent mark, so make sure that you're not putting one there. And then last but not least, any third person plural subjects, so maybe los profesores, los gatos, los estudiantes, los médicos, or los doctores, or maybe it's ellos, ellas, so like they, or ustedes, you all. Any third person plural subject, we're going to take the infinitive form of the verb and attach this, an, with an accent mark over the a, pronounced an. So again, we have the infinitive form of the verb. We're trying to say somebody will something, and we attach as, a, hemos, an. Please pay attention to all the appropriate accent marks or lack thereof up here in this conjugation. So what I have done is I have written just a couple of very basic sentences up on the board, and we're going to do them kind of like fill in the blank, but I've already started them. And then in the second part of this video, obviously, you know, things are not always, they don't always go by the rules. So there are some irregulars in this, but very, very few irregular verbs in the future tense. And I'll just chit chat about that in the second set of example sentences that I'm going to give to you. So for right now, just pretend like everything works like this. You take the infinitive and then you attach these certain endings. So imagine I want to say, I will dance. This is my first sentence. I will dance. The verb to dance in its infinitive form is bailar, B-A-I-L-A-R. We know that we would keep the infinitive form of the verb and then just attach one of those endings. So if I'm saying I will dance, then I'm going to have yo as the subject. I have already put the verb in its infinitive, bailar, here. And then we just need to look over here. So see if you can do that while I'm filling in the blanks for you up here on the white wall board thing. So I am the person who's saying I will dance. And so I would need to go here to my yo. Appropriate conjugation will be that E with the accent mark. Am I going to get rid of this AR before I add that? No, because we keep the infinitive form of the verb. So I have bailar. I add that E with an accent mark, put a period there, and the sentence, yo bailaré, literally means I will dance. It can even be shorter than that because, you know, sometimes in Spanish we have this thing called the omitted subject. Do we have to omit any subjects? No, but sometimes whenever the conjugation of the verb is so specific that the only possible subject is yo, or the only possible subject is tu, or whatever, we don't always have to put the subjects in there, or maybe based on context, we already know who the subject is. So honestly, I could keep it as yo bailaré, or I could get rid of the yo and literally just walk up to somebody and say bailaré, which is just the verb bailar in the future tense, and just that one word, bailaré. Every Spanish speaker out there would know that I am saying I will dance. So that one word can take the place of three words. I will dance in English. So how do you say I will dance? Yo bailaré. Make sure that when you're putting the accent mark on the appropriate ending, the E, that you're also emphasizing your voice at the end there. So bailaré. I will dance. Then we have she will sing. She will sing. The verb in the infinitive to sing is cantar, C-A-N-T-A-R. So we know that we're not going to chop off the AR from that verb cantar. we know we're going to keep the infinitive form of the verb and then they attach one of those appropriate endings over there. Obviously, since we're saying she will dance, we're going to choose this third person singular ending right here. And we go to our sentence and we say ella cantar. There's my verb in the infinitive, and I just attach the a with an accent mark, and I put a period because my sentence is now done. So how do we pronounce that? Cantará. So if I wanted to say she will dance, I would simply say ella cantará. Once again, oh no, not dance. I will dance, she will sing, right? So once again, I will dance, yo bailaré, and she will sing, ella cantará. Then we have the next sentence, just switching up the subjects a little bit. We have, we will take pictures. We're going on vacation, let's say, and we will take pictures. So when we're talking about taking pictures, we can either use the verb tomar or sacar. You will hear tomar fotos or you will hear sacar fotos. Doesn't really matter which one you use. They're both really common, and yeah, it just doesn't matter. So I have chosen to use the verb tomar when we're talking about we will take pictures. Obviously, we say nosotros, we. Pictures, in Spanish, we have fotos. And the verb tomar, we're going to plunk it down there in the infinitive and then just add the appropriate ending. So since we will take pictures or we will take photos, we need to attach this ending right here. Please remember that it does not have an accent mark. It's the only one that doesn't. So we're going to, on the end of the infinitive here, just add in the appropriate ending, E-M-O-S. No accent mark on that one. How do you pronounce that? Tomaremos, tomaremos. So if I wanted to say we will take pictures or we will take photos, I would say nosotros tomaremos fotos. Nosotros tomaremos fotos. If I wanted to get rid of the subject, nosotros, I could, and I could say simply tomaremos fotos, and every Spanish speaker would know that I am saying we will take photos or we will take pictures. And then this last example in this set that I'm going to give you is I will travel the world. The verb to travel is viajar. It's spelled V-I-A-J-A-R, viajar. And I am the person who's saying I will travel the world. So we're going back over here to this conjugation. That's the E with the accent on it. And I have already plunked down the verb in its infinitive form. I'm not going to chop off the AR. I'm just going to add the appropriate ending that we have over here. And I'm going to say, yo viajaré el mundo. Obviously, el mundo meaning the world. So our whole sentence would be, yo viajaré el mundo. Remember that we have the option to get rid of that subject, yo, and if I wanted to, I could just say viajaré el mundo, and we will all know that I'm saying I will travel. That one word, viajaré, can take on 3 different words in its equivalent English sentence. I will travel could just be viajaré, and then the world, el mundo. So I'm going to put some other examples up on the thing here, and I'll also tackle the idea of the handful of irregular verbs that we have in the future tense. Yes, you do need to know all of the irregulars because some of the most common verbs in Spanish happen to be irregular in the future, but again, there aren't that many of them. So now I have a couple of other example sentences up on the board for you. Some of them I've started. The ones that have already started for us are the ones that are regular and are following the same rules that we just saw in the last set of examples, and the ones that I haven't started for us by filling in the blanks with the infinitive form of the verb is because they have a little start over here because we're not going to be using the infinitive. Those happen to be a couple of the irregular verbs in the subjunctive. So for a complete list of the irregular verbs, please consult your course materials. But I wanted to at least do a few examples with you so that you can see how it works. It really is easy. It's just a matter of memorizing certain irregular stems. But let's do 3 more examples of regular verbs and switching up the subjects just a little bit, and then we'll do 3 examples of irregular. So I have left this up here so that you have the appropriate endings. Remember, the first 3 that I've started for us already happen to be regular verbs in the future tense. So we have the verb comprar, to buy, C-O-M-P-R-A-R. The verb comprar, to buy, in the infinitive. And then obviously we're going to be attaching a certain ending to that. In this second example, we have the verb comer, to eat, and we're going to be attaching an ending to that infinitive. Then we have estudiar, to study. We're going to be attaching one of these appropriate endings to that. And then we'll worry about our irregular verbs in just a second. So this sentence, we know that all of the future sentences mean will something. We said this is will buy, will eat, will study, but who? So in this first example, we have él, meaning he, él. So obviously our sentence is supposed to say, when we get done with it, he will buy what? Un coche nuevo, a new car. So once we get this all, the blanks fill in and stuff like that, our sentence is going to mean he will buy a new car. The only thing that we're tasked with doing is tacking on the appropriate ending over here to the verb in the infinitive. So since he is the subject, we're going to choose this one right here. And that means we're going to put on the end of the infinitive, comprar, an A with an accent. And that finishes our sentence. So how would we say that? We would say, él comprará, comprará. Make sure to put the oomph in your voice where you have the accent mark. So, él comprará un coche nuevo. Él comprará un coche nuevo. He will buy a new car. In our next sentence, with comer, we have to eat. Since the subject is ellos, so they will eat comida auténtica. What might comida auténtica mean? Authentic food. So our sentence, whenever we fill in that blank, is going to be, they will eat authentic food. They will eat authentic food. Since they, a third person plural subject, appears in our sentence, we're going to attach this ending to the verb comer in the infinitive. So we're going to add the A-N, and the A was with an accent. And then that sentence is also now done. So the whole sentence would be, ellos comerán, ellos comerán comida auténtica. Ellos comerán comida auténtica means they will eat authentic food. Then in our next sentence, we have the verb estudiar. The subject is ustedes. A lot of students get confused between ellos and ustedes, but ellos means they, and ustedes is like you all, or you guys, you plural, right? So ellos, they, ustedes, y'all, you guys. So we have you all, or y'all, or you guys will study. What will you study? Los verbos irregulares. What might irregulares means? If we have los verbos irregulares, the irregular verbs, right? So we have our sentence trying to say, when we get done with it, y'all will study the irregular verbs. So all we have to do is plunk on the end of that infinitive, estudiar, the appropriate ending. Since ustedes is the subject, we're going to choose this third person plural conjugation again. So it will be that A-N, and the A will have an accent. And that's our appropriate verb in the future tense that we need for that sentence. Estudiarán. Estudiarán. So our sentence would be, ustedes estudiarán los verbos irregulares. And again, ustedes estudiarán los verbos irregulares. I know that there's a little bit of a glare, but this word right here is irregulares, irregular. And that is exactly what we're getting ready to do. So the freedom here that I have the little stars by over there, they're all sentences that we're going to need to use an irregular verb. So remember that I said a few minutes ago that you do need to know all of the irregular verbs in the future tense, because some of the most common verbs in Spanish in the future tense are irregular. So if you think about the verb hacer, hacer is to do or to make. I think we can all agree that it's one of the most common verbs in the Spanish language, to do or to make. That happens to be an irregular verb. The verb salir, to leave or to go out. Salir, to leave or to go out. The verb poner, like I will put the book on the table. Poner also happens to be an irregular verb. So again, if you wanted a complete list, you could consult your course materials. But the thing that I wanted to show you guys is to tú, and then nosotros, and then Jorge. So a third person singular subject with verbs that are irregular in the future tense. So let's step back just a second and figure out what we need to know about irregular verbs. Let me tell you the best part. The best part about the irregular verbs, other than the fact that there aren't that many of them in the future tense, is, here's the thing. We are always still going to use this set of endings. So once you memorize these AR, ER, and IR verb endings, this one set, a, as, a, hemos, an, we are still going to be using these endings even with the irregular verbs. So then you say to yourself, well, if we're using those endings, then what's irregular about them? It's not the ending that's irregular, it's the fact that we are not going to be using the infinitive form of the verb and then tacking these endings onto the end. So if we're not using the infinitive form of the verb, what might we be using? You will find a list of irregular stems that the irregular verbs will use in place of the verb in its infinitive. So remember, there will be an irregular stem or root, and then you'll tack these endings onto that, and instead of tacking them onto the verb in the infinitive. So in this sentence, I haven't given you the verb, but I want it to be the verb to have. To have, tener, is another very common verb in Spanish, and it happens to be irregular. So here's the thing. We know that we just said with the irregular verbs, we're not going to be using the infinitive. We're going to be using irregular stems. So let me jot a couple of things down here for you. In this sentence, this first one, I want us to use the verb tener. We are not going to plunk down the verb tener, to have, T-E-N-E-R, in the blank and then attach the ending. For nosotros, we're going to have to memorize an irregular stem. For the verb tener, the irregular stem or irregular root happens to be that. And it looks really weird because it's not a complete word, it's just an irregular stem or an irregular root to which one of these endings will be added. So this happens to be spelled T-E-N-D-R. That is the irregular root or stem that needs to be memorized for the verb tener. Remember the verb tener, what does it mean? To have. So just knowing that the verb tener is to have, we know that this sentence will say, we will have una fiesta grande. Una fiesta grande, a big party, right? So our sentence will say, when we're done with it, we will have a big party. What do we have to do? We know we're not going to put tener right here. We know that we're going to, instead of putting the infinitive, we're going to put this, T-E-N-D-R, and then knowing that nosotros, we is our subject, we're going to attach this appropriate ending. So remember again, we're still using these endings. So we'll just attach the E-M-O-S, no accent mark, and then we'll be done with our verb in the future tense, tener. So how do we say that? We pronounce it tendremos, tendremos, tendremos. Nosotros tendremos una fiesta grande. Nosotros tendremos una fiesta grande. Remember that we have the option of getting rid of the subject, nosotros, because it is not only implied but obvious by the conjugation of the verb. If we wanted to leave it, nosotros tendremos una fiesta grande, we could, but if we want to make the sentence shorter, we could get rid of nosotros, and the sentence would be, tendremos una fiesta grande. Tendremos una fiesta grande, again, would mean we will have a big party. The next sentence that I have, I want you to use the verb hacer, to do or to make. To do or to make. In this sentence, it's going to mean to make, but we know that the verb hacer is very common. It can mean to do or to make, and it happens to be irregular. So please memorize your irregular stems or roots for the verbs in the future tense. So we know that hacer is the verb in its infinitive form, and since we will have memorized all of our irregular stems, what verbs are irregular in the future tense, we'll know that hacer, we're not going to just plunk down here in our sentence the verb hacer. We're going to have memorized the irregular stem or root, which happens to be this. H-A-R, that's it. H-A-R is the irregular stem or the irregular root that you have to memorize for the future tense of hacer, and then we're going to attach the appropriate ending over here. So we can see that tú, you, tú is the subject in that sentence. Since tú, you happens to be the subject, this ending, A, S, accent over the A, is the ending that we're going to need for that sentence to conjugate it correctly. So we'll put the irregular stem or irregular root down, H-A-R, and then attach the appropriate tú conjugation, A-S, and the A with an accent. And then we're left with a question of how to pronounce that. Remember that H's do not have sound in Spanish. So this future conjugation based off of tú for the verb hacer is pronounced harás. Harás. Not, don't make any sound. It's just pronounced harás. And make sure to, even though it's a little bit uncommon for English speakers, make sure to put emphasis on the last part of that word, because wherever you see the accent mark, that's where you're going to have the emphasis. So, harás. Tú harás una piñata. You will make a piñata. Maybe for this thing right here, it says we will have a big party and you will make a piñata. So again, tú harás una piñata is a complete sentence. And if we wanted to, we could get rid of the subject tú. If we wanted to, we don't have to. And if we did, the sentence would be even shorter. Just simply walking up to somebody and saying, harás una piñata. You will make a piñata. Future tense. And then the last sentence, I have some guy named Jorge as the subject. So it will be like él or he. And I want us to use the verb salir, S-A-L-I-R, as our verb in the infinitive. But since we're working with the regular verbs, you should expect that it's irregular. And so we're not going to plunk down salir in the blank. We're going to memorize our irregular stem or irregular roots for the future. And for salir, it happens to be this. And it's spelled S-A-L-D-R. So that's our irregular stem or root for the future of salir. Again, S-A-L-D-R. And then we will attach the appropriate ending for this guy named Jorge. It will be this right here because it's like a third person singular subject, él, he. And then we'll worry about what the sentence is supposed to say. So we'll attach the S-A-L-D-R and then the A with the accent, our ending for Jorge. And how do we say that word? Saldrá. So again, salir in the future conjugated based off of Jorge. We have saldrá, saldrá. Jorge saldrá con sus amigos este sábado. Jorge saldrá con sus amigos este sábado. Con sus amigos, with his friends, este sábado, this Saturday. So based on the context of the rest of the sentence, what do we think salir means in this sentence? Salir can mean to leave, but it can also mean to go out. So in this sentence, I mean it as to go out, and we're trying to say Jorge will go out with his friends this Saturday. So again, Jorge will go out. Using the verb salir in the future, we take care of the will go out. Jorge will go out with his friends this Saturday, and that is Jorge saldrá con sus amigos este sábado. So you have a couple of examples of irregular verbs in the future, and the only thing that I wanted to do was to do some examples of regular verbs in the future tense, but also to let you know, I guess, that these stems or roots that you're gonna be memorizing for the future tense look kind of weird. Even if you just look at the ones that we have up on the board, some students say, wait, am I missing something? This doesn't feel like it's a whole word, T-E-N-D-R or H-A-R or S-A-L-D-R. I'm just letting you know in advance if you haven't looked at them yet, all of the stems for the irregular verbs in the future look weird because they're not full words yet. They're just irregular roots or stems to which, in the future tense, you will add the appropriate ending. So that is the formal future, and just remember that you keep the infinitive form of the verb, no matter whether it's an AR, ER, or IR verb, you attach the appropriate ending. If it happens to be irregular, memorize it, but still attach this ending, one of these endings to it. And the last thing to remember about the future is that it's always will. Will something, right? So will, a verb, and that's the future tense.